Hey everybody, it's your pal Mike Zombie, and this week we're going to talk about Bong of the Dead from 2011. It's kind of slapsticky, kind of stoner humor, kind of zombie humor, low budget, but it was more than I expected it to be. When the film started, I was like, okay, well, and this is no lie, when this film starts, you literally go through 24 solid minutes of stoner humor until you get to the first zombie. So that kind of turned me off. I mean, I like clever. I was a clever stoner in high school. I mean, I was stoned, but I never let it interfere with my other important activities like fucking off, going to parties, and going to the beach and ditching school. I still managed to do all of those things repetitively and accurately and well. So I like smart stoner comedies. This isn't what I would classify as a smart stoner zombie movie. Half-Baked was funny and kind of smart, in a way, I thought. But these two guys are getting high constantly. They're growing weed in the house, and you don't even realize for a while that the zombie apocalypse has happened. I'm skipping the intro because it was a vehicle just to show fucking asteroids landing on Earth and somehow zombies come from there. They went through a whole lot of work to do that. So you're kind of watching, and these stoners are in the house, and they're fucking around, and they're getting high, and this guy comes up with this super weed. Remember, and I think it was Nice Dreams where, Cheech is so coked up that he goes flying into space, and Chung holds on, and they're riding it. It's that kind of, crazy high, okay? The one dude's like, man, where'd you get this? Because he's growing a ton of weed in his house, and the guy's like, he's like, hey, remember that zombie that showed up? Well, I dried out his brain, and I ground it up into a powder, and I added some water, and it became this green liquid, and it immediately fertilizes these seeds, and pot grows in 5 seconds, full length, full yield, everything else. And they show him using the last step to demonstrate that it grows this weed. And it's like, wow, it's this crazy high. And suddenly he's like, oh, shit. They smoke this crazy bud, run up to the roof, and they run around half naked, wrestling, riding in a wheelbarrow, weird shit. I don't care how high you are. You don't do half that shit. They come back down and realize, oh shit, all the good bud's gone. So they decide that they're going to drive into suddenly they pull out a map. Oh, right. Zombies everywhere. We need to go to one of the danger zones. The government has put all the zombies and obtain some zombie heads and make this concoction and grow more. So they get it, and see, and this is where the movie kind of lost me, because the writing, it was written by Thomas Newman, who also directed, and he put his heart and soul into this film. I'll get to my praise for him later, but first I'm going to shit on this film. The writing stunk, most of it. These stoners do shit that aren't making any sense. I mean, they're living in a shitty house. It doesn't look like they have anything interesting there. And that's fine if it's every day and you're just poor and living in the ghetto and you're a stoner. But it becomes revealed that, it's the end of the world. These guys could have their choice of any living quarters, I guess, for the most part, I would assume. Any shit they wanted to take and stash could be theirs. And they're just living in crap. And their car is like a real fucked up Chrysler. It's old as shit. So that didn't make sense. I think even a stupid stoner would be savvy enough to have himself a pretty nice car and a fucking PlayStation. What do I know, right? I don't know. But no, these guys don't. So they get in this beat-up, fucked-up car, and they go driving off to the Forbidden Zone. Well, sure enough, they break down because stoners have never heard of an oil change or, coolant at a gas station. It appears to be an old gas station, and they're trying to steal gas. Simone Bailey comes out with a shotgun, and she is probably one of the most attractive women I have ever seen. I was like, whoa, rewind that a second. And she comes out, and she's, of course, a super tough chick with a gun, who also is a mechanic, master mechanic, apparently, and killed her whole family and is just kind of hanging out, collecting things and living on this gas station. She's just a real hard ass. When she realizes that the guy's car's broken down, she lets him stay for a couple of days. They have to sleep downstairs. I don't know. She's always got a gun on him, always being a bitch, and I guess protective. If we're going to buy into this story, she's being protective. She finds one of the guys downstairs loading up his bong with vodka because there's no running water. And so she comes down and she totally breaks her whole character and is like, well, hey, I've never been high, so get me high. So, of course, suddenly all three of them are high. just chugging vodka, and it's a big fucking party. And it didn't really make sense because she was a real hard ass. And then in the morning, she's right back to being a hard ass. And these guys, on their way to her house in the first place, were abducted by this just talking zombie who was... he kind of reminded me of Kurgan from Highlander in a weird way. I think it's just the voice. He kind of reminded me of Kurgan. He abducted him. He's like, I'm going to take over the world. And he's got an army of like 3 zombies, and they're fucking making fun of him because he's apparently very unrealistic in his zombie aspirations. He can talk, though. I mean, but they were unimpressed. They escape. It's a matter of time until they're going to run into this guy again. So they're at her house, and suddenly they're all pals. And the movie at this point became kind of fun because it became 2 pro stoners, 1 new stoner who's, the cool chick in every fucking movie. This is, and I got to admit, as cliche as it is, I love this girl character. I loved Monique in Better Off Dead. She crawled under Lane's 68 Camaro, and, she just rebuilt it herself over the course of an afternoon with just a few tools. I've always liked those strong female characters as long as they're not the angry lesbian character. Got no problem with lesbians, let me state that. But the tough lesbian characters in these movies are always, I don't need a man, and I'm going to clean my gun, and check it out, and I'll whoop your ass, because I don't need a man, And they make such a focal point of their sexual preference and how they fucking wear it on their sleeve that it just puts me off. It just annoys me. So, but tough chicks dig them. Monique, the master mechanic. Mila Jovovich is another great example. Is she hot or what? She's incredibly hot. The list goes on. There's a ton of girls doing this role now, and I think they're great. And Simone Bailey is pretty awesome. You've seen her in a bunch of stuff. Check her out on IMDb. Suddenly these guys are all best pals, and she unveils her father's old work truck, and it's like I'm guessing it's like a 78 Chevy, probably it's like a Cheyenne. It's whatever. And she's like, well, guys, let's get started. We're going to turn this into the ultimate zombie killing mobile, because they've revealed that they weren't off on good intentions. They were going to go get some skulls to make killer weed. And suddenly she decides, after the zombie outback gets killed that she apparently knew, because she had it rigged into some contraption that ran water to her shower on a treadmill, that suddenly her kick-ass place with her kick-ass bar with all her cool old video games and sweet pool table, she's like, I've got no reason to stay. I'm going to go hang out in the ghetto with you guys. And that made no sense. Again, that goes back to the writing that I thought was really spotty here. They make this car that is straight out of Brain Dead. Okay, I first saw the movie under the title of Brain Dead, but you may also know it as Dead Alive, where, of course, Nigel, our hero, levels the entire party of zombies in his mother's home with a lawnmower, and it is fucking epic. I think I'm going to do that movie next week. I want to do something like that, something that I know I can really get into. Brain Dead / Dead Alive is just epic gore, and strange enough, made by Peter Jackson. Before Lord of the Rings. This was, I'm not sure if he did it before or after Meet the Feebles, but those are 2 films that I don't often hear him talk about. Nigel attacks him with a lawnmower and just grinds him down. So with this truck, they kind of do the same thing. They borrow the concept. They put 3 lawnmowers on the front, and they have this crazy turret up on top and saw blades on the side. They turn a weed whacker into some crazy killing thing with a fucking circular saw blade. Suddenly zombies show up as they're going to test drive this thing, and the battle begins. And of course, they're there with the Kurgan guy from earlier who was kind of being a dick. Luckily, at this point in the not very well written script, he brought topless lesbian zombies with him, and they are smoking. Very, very nice. And that's the thing, folks. If the movie's going to be, not the best, throw some boobs in there. Tastefully, why not? What are we, communists? They fight and fight and fight. And sure enough, our favorite of the 2 stoners gets bit. And it's a big to-do. And they killed, everybody. And so basically, it's the one kind of Stone Age looking stoner. I don't even remember his name. And Simone Bailey, I forget her character name. they're now just together, and they decide to stay there, apparently, and they're sowing the weed crops with the bodies of these zombies, and that goes against everything they showed us in the beginning, where he made this green solution of brain and water, and you see them just throw a bunch of body parts in the thing and just mash it up and throw it out on the grass. So again, it was a bit of a continuity in writing downer there at that point, and they kind of just apparently live happily ever after. And the one stoner, they've got him working on the treadmill like the other guy was to run water to the shower. But of course, he's just attracted by weed. So the dude's getting high in front of him, and he's trying to chase the smoke and get high. And on the treadmill, it just, it sends water up to the shower. And the movie ends. And there's some thing in the credits that I didn't fully pick up on. The Kurgan guy gets resurrected as a robot, and I don't know. It didn't look interesting, and I didn't really stop to look at it. The movie itself stunk. I mean, it wasn't the worst I've seen by any means. It was just kind of, it is what it is. There was eye candy with Simone Bailey and the two lesbian zombies. That was eye candy. And other than that, I mean, unless you're really high when you watch this film, it just wasn't that funny. But I liked it better than I thought I would. See, now here's where I suddenly flip around and I give this movie praise. This was written and directed by Thomas Newman, a guy who I've read online. I went to the website. I think it's bongofthedead.com. And I went there and I read what's going on with this guy. And apparently he made this movie for something like $5,000, filmed it in like 350 shots with his camera, edited it all on his Mac, and did all the shit himself. And reading through his blog a little bit, he dedicates the film in the end to everybody who said that he couldn't do something like this by himself with almost no money. And it's kind of like, fuck you guys. They say living well is the best revenge, and they're absolutely right. But reaching those goals, people, tell you can never do with almost nothing in the face of clear adversity is also just must taste great, So I'm kind of reading through this guy's blog and what's going on. It's an interesting story, and if these things are true and not just bullshit movie hype, then man, my hat is off to Thomas Newman, because it's a good looking film. What he lacks in writing, he certainly makes up for with cinematography and direction, because these guys seem like stoners to me, and the special effects were really good. And I'm sure a lot of time was donated by friends and makeup artists, and I mean, for that type of budget, it seriously would have had to have been. But if those things are true and not just bullshit movie hype, then this guy did a kick-ass job. And I would recommend seeing Bong of the Dead, even though I kind of shot it down. Looking back and knowing what it took to make this film and what he had to work with, I'm blown away at what a good job he did. So kudos to you, Thomas Newman. I hope to see more. And you know what? If you want to see this film, go to bongofthedead.com. He's selling it for download for $2.99, $3, folks, because it's so sad. Because his blog, he's like working up to the release date. He's all excited, and like in China, they're making the DVDs right now. And like 2 days later, he's like, "Oh my God, it's already up for download on a BitTorrent." Someone at the manufacturer just took it out and ripped it and put it straight up online before it was even released on DVD. So any money he was going to recoup on this is out the fucking window unless you buy $3 for a download. And he actually, you download a fuller, uncut director's version, which, you know what, folks? I'm going to give this guy $2.99. I'm going to level with you. Some directors film a zombie movie or a horror movie in their house with their digital video cameras, and they make a bunch of hype for it, and they put it they put it up for download themselves for free. They want exposure. And when I downloaded Bong of the Dead, because yes, I just said the keyword, folks, I did download this. I had assumed it was the same thing. And then I liked the film. I realized, this isn't just some shitty thing a guy did. I need to look into this and maybe pay for this. And went to the website, and I am now compelled. I'm going to buy the $3 download extra version, because you know what? Thomas did a good job. And I don't want to rip Thomas off. So I would encourage you also to go to bongofthedead.com. Do the same thing. Let him make another film. And Thomas, if you're listening to this, have someone else. You take your concept to someone else and have them write it. Because I think you did a very nice job framing this, a great job filming it. Your editing was very nice. And special effects and everything else aside, I don't think you did all those, but you made a good film. So, Bong of the Dead from 2011. Next week, I'm going to see about doing Dead Alive, a kick-ass film, one that's very dear to my heart. So, talk to you guys. Talk to you next week. Have a good one. Have a safe one. And remember, if you see a big tank full of 2,4,5 trioxin, you open that motherfucker with a hatchet and let the fun begin. All right. Be good.